Epic Thanksgiving storm closed highways and caused crashes around the Cowboy state. Last week's battle in the barn made college wrestling truly Western. And there really is an armpit, Wyoming. We'll take a look at these stories and more today from Wyoming's largest news organization. I'm Wendy Core for Cowboy State Daily. Several of Wyoming's state and federal highways were either closed or under high-impact advisories for black ice, stalled vehicles, and extreme blowover risks after a Thanksgiving storm dumped more than 20 inches of snow across the state. The storm was part of an intense winter weather pattern that descended on Thanksgiving and continued through Friday. A sudden influx of snow and freezing temperatures preceded by weeks of warm, dry weather made this a perfect storm for travelers. On Friday morning, WYDOT rated nearly every state and federal highway as high impact, with several sections either partially or completely closed. The Wyoming Highway Patrol responded to crashes on both sides of I-80 between Rawlins and Cheyenne, including one that involved several semi-trailers, and the entire stretch of I-25 from Casper to Chugwater was advised against any unnecessary travel. On Highway 287 between Laramie and Fort Collins, Colorado, the black ice was so bad it caused multiple crashes, including the report of an overturned school bus which closed the road. The National Weather Service received reports of multiple feet of snow across Wyoming, with nearly every section of the Cowboy state getting some of the white stuff. Well, it's a situation nobody wants to be in. There's a wounded or injured big game animal suffering in front of you, but unless you have a valid hunting tag for that species and sex, you can't legally kill it. Instead, you'll have to wait for a game warden or law enforcement to come put it out of its misery if it doesn't linger and die in the meantime. Outdoors reporter Mark Hines says from an emotional standpoint, it's a horrible situation for Wyoming hunters. But creating a mercy killing exemption in game laws would probably open the floodgates to abuse and illegal poaching.
If they made some kind of an exception for quote-unquote mercy killings, it would just be too easy to abuse. You'd get those few folks that would do things like go out and shoot a deer in the leg and then go ahead and finish it off and then claim that it was wounded and that's why they had to kill it. Essentially trying to cover up illegal poachings.
The laws regarding killing a big game animal in Wyoming are hard and fast, and game and fish agents recommend that if hunters do come across a wounded animal, they contact the local game warden, wildlife biologist, or regional game and fish office as soon as possible. Well, they called it the Battle in the Barn. University of Wyoming hosted the Fighting Camels of Campbell University from North Carolina last week in a one-of-a-kind wrestling duel that featured a couple of firsts. First, Barstool Sports dubbed the event the most American thing you'll see today, and rightly so. Polk's wrestlers traded their familiar campus confines at the Unawio Sports Complex for a grappling session in a rustic barn at the Deerwood Ranch in Centennial. And if the change of venue doesn't peg the weirdly Western meter, the match was covered by UFC Fight Pass, the worldwide mixed martial arts media giant. The event brought additional exposure to both schools' wrestling programs, even if the live attendance was limited due to space in the barn. I'll be back with more news right after this.
At Hilltop Bank, we understand that buying a home is a big decision. That's why we're here to be your trusted partner on the path to home ownership. Our experienced mortgage team will guide you every step of the way, from pre-approval to closing. We offer competitive rates and a wide variety of home loan options to best suit your needs. With our local knowledge and personalized service, you'll feel confident and comfortable throughout the entire home buying process. Contact us today to start your journey toward home ownership. Hilltop Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
While many people seek out and sit on the creations of legendary artist and furniture designer Thomas Molesworth, not many can say they've lived inside one. That's because there's only one structure that has the distinct Molesworth Western style built into every floor, wall, and doorway. The Molesworth House in Cody is more than a charming throwback to Western heritage. Cowboy State Daily's Andrew Rossi reports that it's the only building designed and built by the man who defined early 20th century Western interior design.
It's this strange mix of labyrinthian. There are all these twists and turns. It's very spacious and very cramped. It's 3 levels, 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. There's an upstairs kitchen, and it's just this really quirky little place that just, if you step inside, there's no more Western feeling house, I think, anywhere that you can go into.
Today, the cabin feels much like it did in 1937. Molesworth himself might walk in at any moment to put the finishing touches on his fireplace. The current owners continue to operate the Molesworth House as a popular overnight accommodation for families and large groups. The property is managed by the Cody Lodging Company. One of the more interesting relics of a bygone era at the Atlas Theater in Cheyenne is its old-fashioned ad drop curtain made of asbestos, which is still in use in the theater today. Unfurled, the curtain shows an inviting scene from Venice, bordered with advertisements from early 1900s businesses in Cheyenne. And Cowboy State Daily's Renee Jean reports that while there are hundreds of these drop-down asbestos curtains, they are a fast disappearing piece of American history.
A very famous artist named Eugene Cox painted a Venetian scene on the curtain. It's also surrounded by all these Cheyenne businesses, very old businesses, all but one of which are no longer in the community. It's kind of a window on Cheyenne history. And the Atlas Theater folks spent about $30,000 restoring this curtain.
The Atlas Theater's asbestos curtain is no longer needed for fire prevention, but it is still quite safe. The asbestos is all encapsulated by paint, so there's no danger of anything that would cause health issues. And if you live in Wyoming long enough, you'll hear about the towns that are considered the armpits of Wyoming. What might be surprising is that there actually is a place in the Cowboy State named Armpit. A former mining camp, the smattering of buildings is now a jumping-off point for explorers eager to spelunk in the caves of the Bighorn Mountains or the natural trap cave just south of the Montana border in north-central Wyoming. Deb May knows the area well as her family has held grazing rights on the land for generations. In fact, her family, the Bischoffs, still owns a significant amount of land on the west slope of the Bighorns.
We purchased that years and years ago, my grandfather probably and his brothers. So in order to get to Armpit, they had to go through our private ground.
The area is a mecca for professional and amateur biologists, geologists, and paleontologists like Cindy Allred, who first came to Wyoming in 1978.
When I first came out here in 1978 with my dad, we came out with an organization called Earthwatch, and our camp was Armpit, Wyoming.
Armpit isn't easy to get to, but for those who are looking to get away from the world, the Armpit of Wyoming might just be what you're looking for. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the subscribe button on CowboyStateDaily.com. I'm Wendy Core for Cowboy State Daily.